Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, wanted to seek the blessings of Radha Madhav, Radha Shyam Sundar, Krishna Balaram, Bal Gopal, Nrsimhadev, Jagannath Baladev Sudha, Gaunitai Tulsimani, Haridasa, Guru Parampara, Srila Prabhupada, Guru Maharaj, and the assembled devotees. Continuing on, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 22 today. And these are a little bit challenging chapters and up to the end of the canto. This one is entitled Enumeration of the Elements of Material Creation. This chapter enumerates and categorizes the natural elements, explaining the difference between male and female natures, and describes birth and death. So Uddhava inquired, how many different elements of creation have been listed by the great sages? You have described a total of 28. So we saw that description yesterday by Sri Krishna, the different material elements. Right. God, the Jiva soul, the Mahatattva, 4 ego, 5 gross elements, 10 senses, the mind, the 5 subtle objects of perception, the 3 modes of material nature. So this is the 28 that Krishna described in the previous chapter. But other authorities, so Uddhav is questioning the Lord, say that there are 26 elements, while others cite 25, or even 7, 9, 6, 4, or 11. And even others say that there are 17, 16, or 13. What did each of these sages have in mind when they calculated the creative elements in such different ways? So this is interesting question. Lord Krishna, he answers, because all material elements are present everywhere, it is reasonable that different learned Brahmins have analyzed them in different ways. This is the beauty of Vedic knowledge. It's not particularly set according to one standard. It allows the Brahmanas, the sages, to improvise, to also, according to time and circumstance, reanalyze some of the information. It's not particularly fixed in a certain direction. This is the beauty of Vedic scriptures. All such philosophers spoke under the shelter of my mystic potency, and thus they could say anything without contradicting the truth. So this is another interesting point. They may reanalyze it, but the truth remains the truth. So they, even by reanalyzing, don't contradict the truth. This is an art. And sometimes it's said that a true sage is somebody who can change or reanalyze something in the Vedic system without contradicting the truth. So when philosophers argue, I don't choose to analyze this particular case in the same way that you have. It is simply my own insurmountable energies that are motivating their analytical disagreements. But for those who have fixed their intelligence on me and control their senses, differences of perception disappear, and consequently the very cause for argument is removed. So Krishna is saying, look, I am flexible. I will give them the inspiration to make changes that they may want to do. However, one who's fixed his intelligence, for him there's no contradiction. As subtle and gross elements mutually enter into one another, philosophers may calculate the number of basic material elements in different ways, according to their personal desire. Therefore, no matter which of these thinkers is speaking, and regardless of whether in their calculations they include material elements within their previous subtle causes or else within their subsequent manifest products, I accept their conclusions as authoritative, because a logical explanation can always be given for each of the different theories. So the Lord is also showing his flexibility. He's so kind. He's allowing our own the imagination of the sages to be included within the Vedic concept. It's an all-inclusive policy that the Lord applies, and that's very important. Sanatana Dharma should be all-inclusive. There is no qualitative difference between the living entity and the supreme controller. To presuppose any distinction between them is senseless. Ordinary knowledge is simply a quality of material nature, not of the soul proper. The raw substance of material nature is designated according to its different phases. In the mode of goodness, it is known as knowledge. In the mode of passion is activity. And in the mode of darkness, as ignorance. Time is another name of the Supreme Lord. Because he does say in the Bhagavad Gita, time I am, in the 13th, 11th chapter. Time I am, the destroyer of all worlds. And another name for material propensity is Mahatattva. The 25 elements of the nature are the Lord, nature, the Mahatattva, force, ego, ether, air, fire, water, earth, eyes, nose, ears, nose, tongue, skin, speech, hands, legs, feet rather, the genitals, the anus, the mind, sound, touch, form, taste, and smell. So here we go. Krishna is again enumerating them, these qualities. The unmanifest Supreme Personality merely glances at nature. Material nature, which is under the control of the Supreme Lord, then assumes the forms of causes and effects and carries out the creation, maintenance, and destruction of the material world. Even though the Purush and Prakriti appear non-different to superficial vision, there is an ultimate difference between the two. So, Krishna is saying originally here in the beginning, text 9, that there's no difference between living entity and the Supreme Controller. But there is, even though superficially there is no difference. The difference is that Prakriti or material or even us, Prakriti can refer to material nature, can refer to us, is very small. Purush is huge. It's the source of everything, whereas we are dependent on the Purush. So there's an ultimate difference between the two. Material creation is produced from the modes of Prakriti, and its quality is transformation. The living entity who are inimical to the Supreme Lord take on and give up various kinds of material bodies through the agency of their own material work. So that's what we're doing. We're living in this samsara, birth, death, old age, and disease. And according to our karma, our activities, we are getting new bodies, which is called reincarnation. But those who are ignorant of the self because of being bewildered by illusion do not understand this. Krishna explains the different numbers which philosophers have analyzed the material elements in different ways, many different ways. And he states that all of their proposals are reasonable since they're all presented with ample logic. Indeed, such philosophical brilliance is expected of the truly learned. That's the point that I was trying to make earlier. Those who are truly regarded to be scholars of the Vedic system, they have the brilliance to manipulate or reanalyze material elements. Okay. Uddhav inquires, although nature and the living entity are constitutionally distinct, right? So living entity is eternal, nature is temporary. There appears to be no difference between them because they are found residing within one another. So we are living in this body, and generally speaking, we identify with this body, not the soul, right? The soul appears to be within nature and nature within the soul. So it's interlinked. Without the soul, the nature cannot function. And without a body, the soul, how is it going to manifest its activities? Krishna said that the material nature and its enjoyer are clearly distinct. The body undergoes 9 stages of manifestation, which are brought about by association with the qualities of material nature. So what are these 9 stages? 1, impregnation. 2, gestation. 3, birth. 4, childhood. 5, youth. 6, maturity. 7, middle age. 8, old age. 9, death. So the material body has to go through these. From the death of one's father and from the birth of one's son, a person can easily comprehend the rise and fall of his own body. However, the soul, who is the perceiver, is different from the body. But when there is no knowledge of the true facts, the living entity, confused by the objects of sense gratification, achieves his destination within the cycle of material existence. So illusion means we cannot understand that we are separate from the body, from the material elements. Illusion makes us think that we are, the soul is the body. So we identify with the body. The speculative argument of philosophers, this world is real. No, it is not real. Is based upon incomplete knowledge of the Supreme Soul. So is this world real or not? Well, it is. We're living in it. However, it is temporary. And that's why it appears unreal. So both are, in one sense, correct and incorrect. Uddhav inquired, the intelligence of those dedicated to fruitive activities is certainly deviated from you. Please explain to me how such persons accept superior and inferior bodies by their materialistic activities and then give up such bodies. Krishna replies that the mind, which is filled with ideas of fruitive work, simply takes the senses with it from one body to another. So the mind continues, right? Every life we have the same mind, and it has the same desires, etc. While the soul follows along. So we have two types of bodies: the gross body, made up of earth, water, fire, ether, and then there's a subtle body made up of intelligence. First mind, intelligence, and then false ego. So this subtle body takes the soul into the next body, into the next gross body. The mind always meditates on the objects of the senses, loses its ability to distinguish past and future. When the soul passes from the present body to the next body, which is created by his own karma, he completely forgets the experience of the previous body. So this is actually the kindness of the Lord, that we are not allowed to remember, or generally speaking, we don't remember our previous life. Because if we did remember, we would be in all sorts of confused state and anxiety because so much has happened in previous lives. We just could not be able to handle it mentally. So we can't remember anything. Identifying with a new body. Identifying with the new body. Just as a person experiencing a dream or daydream does not remember his previous dreams or daydreams, a person situated in his present body, although having existed prior to it, thinks that he is only recently come into being. So this is the downside of not remembering our past life. We are thinking, hey, it's the first time I've come into this world. But actually, we've come into this world a long time ago. We're having millions of different types of bodies. The mind created the identification with the new body as the reality of the soul. It's not real, but the mind makes it real. And hence why we effectively function in this body. If we realize that the soul is separate from the body, has nothing to do with the body in one sense, then perhaps we would stop transacting. Perhaps we would stop doing anything. And there are examples of this. Bharat Maharaj, he was allowed to remember his next 2 lives. And when he came back as Jat Bharat, he decided, hey, I've nothing to do with the soul. I'm just going to pretend, I'm just going to imagine myself being deaf and dumb to this world. I don't want to do anything because again I'll be trapped in Maya if I do start acting with others. Material bodies are constantly changing by the force of time. Impregnation, gestation, birth, infancy, childhood, youth, middle age, old age, and death. There's 9 things. Then are the 9 ages of the body. But because of subtle nature of time, no one sees this. Time is very, it's a really a very incredible aspect of the Supreme Lord. Because of time, we don't understand so many things. Don't understand that we are growing old. Still believe that we're young. And of course, the soul is young, but the body is getting old. Although the material body is constantly undergoing transformation, those who are wasting their lives falsely think that each stage of the body is a person's real identity. Although the material body is different from the self, because of ignorance due to material association, one falsely identifies oneself with the superior and inferior bodily conditions. By the death of one's father or grandfather, one can surmise one's own death. And by the birth of one's son, one can understand the condition of one's own birth. The witness of the birth and death of the material body remains separate from it. The living entity continuously wanders under the spell of material work, taking birth as a sage or a demigod when he is predominated by the mode of goodness. Amongst the demons or human beings when he's predominantly influenced by the mode of passion. And in the species of ghosts, spirits, or animals when he is predominated by the mode of ignorance. So Krishna is explaining how the 3 modes of material nature, depending on where we are situated, will determine our next life, either as a demigod or human or an animal. The spirit soul does not engage in the enjoyment of sense objects because it's spiritual. It's connected to God, but it's forgot that connection. It cannot enjoy the material senses because it is not from this world. It's from the spiritual world. It's under the false impression it's going to be enjoying, but it can't. Rather, it is the senses that perform these activities. Therefore, the living entity has no actual need for sense gratificatory pleasures. With the exception of those peaceful personalities who have taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and are dedicated to the divine duty of his service, everyone, including so-called learned scholars, is inevitably overcome by all-powerful material nature. Krishna advises Uddhav to try to not enjoy sense gratification with the material senses, as illusion based on material dualities prevents one from realizing the self. Even though neglected, insulted, ridiculed, or envied by bad men, or even though repeatedly agitated by being beaten, tied up, or deprived of one's occupation, spat upon or polluted with urine by ignorant people, one who desires the highest goal in life should, in spite of all these difficulties, use his intelligence to keep safe on the spiritual platform. We can undergo all sorts of crazy things in this material world because this world is crazy. But somehow we have to remember that we are from the spiritual world. We are spirit souls. And somehow we have to operate on the spiritual platform, which is very important. Very hard, of course, because when you're confronted by different scenarios in this material world, you get carried away by what is happening, So, but somehow we have to just stop and realize, hey, hang on a minute. What am I doing now? I'm reacting to something material, but I'm a spirit soul. So sometimes it's good to just stop and consider what we are doing. Sri Uddhav said that the conditioning of one's personality in material life is very strong. We know this, right? We all have our conditioning. We all have our personality, which is hard to change. Therefore, it is very difficult even for learned men to tolerate the offenses committed against them by ignorant people. Very true. Only your devotees who are fixed in your loving service, who have achieved peace by residing at your lotus feet, are able to tolerate such offenses. So that's a really good stop, actually, at this point. That we have to transcend into the realm of becoming devotees of the Lord. This is only by the mercy of Guru and Govinda. And if we can somehow attach ourselves to the Supreme Lord, then it is possible. It is very possible to tolerate all sorts of things, all sorts of insults. Otherwise, it's not possible to get out of this material world, because we will always be reacting to something that's happening to us on the bodily platform. And that's our fall down, because we're acting upon it on a bodily platform and not on a spiritual platform. Any questions, any comments? There's quite a lot in this chapter. And it's 61 verses, which is quite a big chapter. Okay, thank you so much, everybody. We shall stop there. Srimad Bhagavad Purana ki jai.